So, business model for an artist. What areas in art can you include in your business model so that you can have a business that is future-proofed? So when I talk about future-proof, what I kind of mean is, what can you be doing that not that's unique, because there are many artists who will be doing exactly the same thing as you, so nothing's ever really unique. But what things that you can add to your business model that are going to help you make a living from your art, and ensure that you're making a regular income and not kind of relying on just one source of income, I guess. When I started out as a full-time artist back in January 2017, previous to that, I actually created a plan of action. What was I going to be doing? What did I want to be doing? What did I want my business to look like? I've done a few sort of free Zoom sessions on planning, and I am going to be doing a Q&A as well on running a commission business. That's something that I'm going to be doing very soon, and that again is it's going to be a free workshop over on Zoom, so anybody can join and ask questions. But this particular video is just really about how I did things, why I decided to do things, and potentially if you are a similar sort of person to me and you want to go down the same route, what to look out for, what are the benefits, basically. I don't really want to talk about the negatives as such. I think anything could be negative, anything could be positive, anything can be negative, and I think it depends on the sort of person as to whether you find something a positive or a negative. I will kind of, talk about some of the things that have maybe challenged me, and have met due to my sort of like either my personality or just how things have worked, really. But I think anything that any sort of business that you run, or you're planning, or you're working towards, you're going to have challenges, and those challenges are, once you kind of overcome those end up being the most rewarding moments anyway in your sort of art career, I guess. So I started off with my plan. My plan basically had every single thing on it that me as an artist, what I wanted to actually be doing. And that was obviously the commissioned work, because I was already doing commissioned work. The commissioned work kind of was very, very high up on the list. I think it was number one on the list. And then I had things like I wanted to do get into galleries, I wanted to do art fairs, all of those different sorts of things. And because I've been teaching, and I think I've covered this in other videos as well, but I just wanted to kind of cover it again, really, because I was teaching, or I had been teaching in the past with previous roles. The teaching side of stuff was also quite high up on my list of things that I wanted to do. So I had this kind of plan of everything, but instead of just kind of diving in and trying to make a go of everything, what really helped me was just to kind of focus on one area of my business and make it so that it was working seamlessly. So I didn't have to put a huge amount of effort into kind of working out what I was going to be doing or marketing it or anything like that. It was kind of bread and butter work, and that was my commission stuff. So my commission stuff became bread and butter. I found the best way of being able to market it. I had a good product. I got a reputation for creating nice artwork, all of that type of stuff. So that became my bread and butter. And then once that was sort of working seamlessly, my commissions were coming in, and eventually closing my books and just having a wait list via email, that has really, really helped my commission business, I have to say. I think that was quite a good decision I made, because I can now open my books. I have a ready-made wait list sitting there. I can just email them, all of the people on the wait list, and I can book a year of portraits in advance, which sounds fantastic, sounds amazing, but it just works really, really well. I don't believe in bombarding people with emails and all of that marketing stuff. I send one email out, maybe 2 emails out, and that's it, and then people will contact me, book a portrait in, and then that's it, so that works really, really well. So I've got the commission side of my work, running like clockwork, basically. So once I kind of got that working and I was, doing quite well with my commissions, I then started to think about the next part of my business plan, which was the teaching side of things. And I've always, I share everything. I love to share information. I love to share techniques, all of that type of stuff, because I just really like to see people develop. I really like to see people go on and create their own art businesses and everything and be successful. That's something that I really, really get a big kick out of. So the next side of things was the teaching. And that actually didn't come into play until 2018, very late on in 2018, when I started doing my workshops. I did my first workshop in London. I'm from North Yorkshire, so, London was sort of like quite a... I don't know. Well, I do know why it was London. It was because a good friend of mine, the lovely Vicky, had insisted that I come down to London and run a workshop. So I did. And it went really, really well. And from that, I then booked more workshops in 2019, which again was fantastic. And the workshop side of things have worked really, really well. I love meeting people. I love kind of helping people face to face. I think that is something that I don't think you can get that same reaction from people, or you can give exactly the same level of service, I guess, if you're working on, over the internet. Face to face is always just so rewarding. My workshops, they did very, very well. Sadly, this year I've had to cancel all of them actually, but that's okay, because I've managed to get some stuff done online. I've done quite a few free things for people, and I've really, really enjoyed doing the live stuff on online, on YouTube and Facebook, etc., and via Zoom. And then the other thing that I'd also put on my plan of things that I wanted to do and things that I wanted to kind of was part of my business model was teaching online. It's kind of a no-brainer, I think. If you teach, making sure that you've got an online channel or platform or whatever, I think is, in this day and age, is a no-brainer, because it means that you can access so many more people, or so many more people around the world can access you, should I say. You're not just, people who are close by can come to a physical workshop, but people who are kind of overseas and whatever, they can't. So having an online facility is a really, really good idea. And if that's something that you, as an artist, are thinking, well, do you know what? I think I could do some teaching. I think I'd quite like to do that. And I have to say it's incredibly rewarding. And I also have to say, you don't have to be a qualified artist, teacher, whatever, to be able to help somebody. You just don't. You just have to be confident. You have to love people. I think you have to be in it for the right reasons. So you have to be in it to be helping people rather than, what are the right reasons? Helping people, building your own business. To say that you're not in it to make money is a bit crazy, because you're kind of running a business. So you kind of want to be making money. It goes hand in hand, really. So if you love helping people and you're, you like sharing techniques and all of that type of thing, then teaching could be something that you might want to kind of get into. Many artists sort of set up YouTube channels, and of course there's the teaching channel. Well, there's Teachable, there's Udemy, there's all sorts of different teaching channels. In particular, I chose Patreon because that's what people were asking me to do. Quite a few different options, but the majority of people asked me if I would start a Patreon channel, which is what I did back in February the 1st, 2019. And teaching can be a really, really lucrative part of an art business. Because it kind of, you can slot it in really, really nicely. As with me, I'm kind of a commissioned artist, but I'm also a teaching artist, and I can kind of work the two of them together really quite nicely. I tend not to use my commission work for tutorials. I have done a few commissions as tutorials, which has been great because you're kind of sort of doing two things just in one. So it does work really, really nicely. But, commissions tend to be sort of like a one-off special piece of work, and you don't really want to be doing all of your tutorials from commissions. I think doing some specific pieces for tutorials, I think is sort of like a better idea. So you've got to kind of... The problem I had was when I was doing my commission work, I was booked up solidly, and then wanted to start obviously doing the teaching side of things and making video tutorials and that type of thing. But trying to find the time to then fit in original pieces of work, I found that really, really difficult. So my first couple of tutorials were from commissioned pieces, and then I kind of worked out how I could do original pieces and still get my commissioned work done, at the same time. So being able to plan around that and being quite specific about your time and what you the time that you put into both areas of your business, I think is really quite important. Making sure that you're not taking on too much, but then also making sure that you're sort of taking on the right things for your what it is that you want to teach. And a lot of people, if they want to go down the teaching route, a lot of people start with adding things to their social media, but they also start with a YouTube channel, which can be quite a lot of fun. It's everything to do with an art business is hard work. You have to put a lot of work in to be able to get the rewards. But if you wanted to start if you were wanting to start a Patreon channel or a Teachable channel or something like that, my advice has always been, and this is exactly what I did, is to run a campaign. Run a campaign that enables people to understand what it is that you do, what it is that you're going to be teaching. They then get to know your style. They get to know what it exactly is they're going to get. And they can start then kind of almost badgering you and pestering you to start some sort of a teaching channel. And if you have a load of your fans wanting something, then when you actually launch your whatever teaching channel you're going to be launching, you kind of launch with a bit of a bang. I've been approached by quite a few artists to help them or to give them advice, about setting up a teaching channel. And my advice has always been, run a campaign that lasts probably between 6 and 12 months. And that campaign needs to be about putting yourself out there as a teacher. People need to understand what it is that they're going to get. And the other thing as well is, if you go with something like Patreon, in Patreon you can't actually search for a specific medium. You have to know the artist to be able to search for them. If you've already got a great following on your social media, on YouTube, that type of thing, then the natural step for some of those followers is to kind of join you on your teaching channel, especially if they know what to expect and are excited about what extra they're going to get. And that is exactly what I did with my Patreon channel. I ran a year-long campaign. Year-long campaign? Yes, probably a year-long campaign. And actually there wasn't, I'm saying I ran a year-long campaign. It was something that I kind of did subconsciously. I knew that I wanted to, and this comes back to your planning. This is what I talk about, and the RAS, the reticular activating system. I knew that I wanted to teach. I knew that I wanted to have some form of a teaching channel. So what then happened automatically was I was concentrating on kind of building that in the future, but kind of laying all those little sort of seeds, sowing all those seeds beforehand, and making sure that people knew what to expect from me as an artist. So I'd be helping people. I'd be sharing helpful video clips and everything, unbeknownst to me that this would then actually have an effect on my launch of my Patreon would be. And I think that's really, really, really important, when you're kind of looking at revenue streams for your art business, and looking at, future-proofing it and making sure that you've got sort of different areas of revenue that you can kind of rely on. I think it's really, really important to plan for that, not just sort of jump straight in and go, oh, I'm just going to do this now. You've got to kind of understand how the different areas work and what you need to put in to be able to get out, if you see what I mean. So, I ran my campaign for, it was about a year, helping people, just sharing different tips, all of that type of thing. And when I launched my Patreon channel on the 1st of February, day two, I'd hit something like 110 subscribers. The first month, I think I can't remember how many people I got in my first month, but I'd hit the $1,000 mark, within that first month, and it's steadily risen since then. Which is absolutely fantastic. But I put all of that hard graft in beforehand. I put all of that work in before, and it kind of paid off, and it's still paying off. My Patreon is growing. It's fantastic. I'm really, really happy with how it's growing. But I don't think I had realised from the off, when I launched it on the 1st of February, I don't think I actually realised how much work I had to put into it to make a success of it. I think probably you get to a certain figure in Patreon and it kind of becomes a little bit, not passive, because you still got to put all of the work in to create the tutorials, but I think it becomes a little bit easier. But when you're trying to grow it, you have to put so much effort in. You have to engage with everybody. Luckily for me, that was something that I do naturally. I love talking to people. I love helping people. So for me, being online all day and kind of helping my patrons is just, it's just brilliant for me because I love it so much. But it's also quite stressful, running a subscription service where people are not tied into a contract. It can be really, really stressful. And one of the things that I say quite a bit, actually, if you're thinking of running or you're thinking of starting a Patreon channel or any sort of teaching channel that's got a subscription service where there's no contract, so that nobody's tied in for longer than, nobody's tied in at all. They can go whenever they want. What I would say is, if you are if you're a stressful person, or if you suffer from sort of like anxiety and all of that type of thing, it can be really, really, really stressful. I'm not a stressful person. I'm quite confident. I don't really get anxious about stuff, but I tell you what, I get really anxious with Patreon. It's the problem is when people leave. And people leave for all sorts of different reasons. People can leave because it's not what they expected. People can leave because, they thought they were getting something different, or your style doesn't suit them. People can leave because they're having, sort of money problems, that type of stuff. There's all sorts of reasons why people will leave a subscription channel. And it's not a reflection on the artist who is... or it's not usually a reflection on the artist who is running that teaching channel. But sadly, the artist who is running that teaching channel, that I'm talking about me here, I can't talk for anybody else, but me in particular, I take it really personally. So somebody leaves, or I was taking it very personally to begin with. So if somebody leaves, I just think, oh gosh, they don't like me. And I feel terrible that they don't like me, or I'm not giving them the right service or something like that. And I've had to be, and I'm not normally like that, but I've had to be quite strict with myself and sort of give myself a bit of a talking to, because people do leave, At the end of a month, you might leave. When you start getting your figures up, you might get, 20% of your following might go. But then, of course, you've got to work hard to build that back up again. So it can be incredibly stressful. And that's one thing that I do, I point out to anybody who contacts me to ask if I'd help them, with a Patreon channel. That's one thing that I do say to them. The challenge is that it can be really, really stressful. And, you just need to understand that. And the other thing as well is, if you promise to do something, if you're, you get the tiers and everything like that. And I think it works the same in the other teaching channels too. You tell people what they're going to get. You have to make sure that you deliver that, because that's what people are signing up for. That's what people are wanting. So you've got to make sure that you've got enough time to be able to, if you say you're doing 2 tutorials a month, full tutorials a month, that's what you've got to deliver. And that again can be quite stressful, and it puts you under quite a lot of pressure. I mean, I happen to like being under pressure. I happen to work very, 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 very well under pressure. I always have done. I like working to sort of tight deadlines, and pressure's not an issue for me. But if it is an issue and it's going to kind of stress you out a little bit, that's again something that you need to think of right from the beginning. How you're going to build your teaching channel, what you're going to offer, and whether or not you can realistically create what you say you're going to create. Because you're better to create more and over deliver than you are to under deliver. That's kind of how I feel. But once you've kind of got this, whichever channel or whatever set up, and you're kind of creating content for it each month, it's a fantastic way of meeting people, of kind of building relationships with people, of helping people, and it can eventually end up being a really great source of income. But it's the work you have to put in. You have to put a huge amount of work in. You've also got to be really, really careful about the equipment that you use, because you're creating a subscription service that people are buying, people are paying for each month. So you need to make sure that your video content, if you're creating video, your video content, your sound is vital. It's so important that it is of the best quality. And I have had some real major issues with sound quality. I found that if there's anything that's stressed me out the most doing Patreon, it is the sound, the quality of the sound that I've and I've bought I don't know how many different microphones to try and work out my sound, get it all so it's actually working nicely and it's actually a good clear sound. And so far as that, I've had to end up buying a new Mac, because my old Mac had this sort of whirring noise that was picked up by the microphone. Really, really annoying for me, but even more so if you're trying to listen to a tutorial and you've got this massive whirring sound in the background. I mean, some sounds you can't kind of get away from. The last few months, my videos have had, a little bit of background noise because I've got all my children here. They've all been stuck in the house with me. I also have the dogs moving around in my videos, but actually that's become part of who I am and my videos, because you can kind of, people are getting to know my dogs as well as they're snoring and what have you. So actually that's not an issue. But poor quality sound, muffled voice, all of that type of thing, it bothers people, and it's awful, when somebody kind of has a bit of a moan about your sound. But then you've got to think, they're right, they're paying for a subscription service. I need to make sure that all of my video content and everything like that is good quality. And that's why I purchased a new camera. It's why I've got spent quite a lot of money on an overhead camera rig, all of that type of stuff, so that I can bring the best quality videos that I can possibly do. And I imagine I'll keep on upgrading my equipment as well, so that I really can get the best quality video that possible. So there's all of those little things that you kind of need to think about. You can create brilliant video content when you first start out using smartphone, iPhone, even iPad, something like that. It's got good sound, it's got good picture quality. You don't have to have really expensive equipment to be able to create. You don't have to have expensive equipment to create good video content. But what you'll find is, if you kind of get into it, the teaching side of things, that, you want to get sort of better equipment, because it makes it easier for you as an artist. Having your camera set up above your head and it's always there means that you can sort of like quickly, if you want to video something, you can quickly just hit record and off you go. So I think thinking about how you're going to be running your business, what it is that you want to do, whether it is going down the fine art route, getting your work into galleries, creating prints that you can sell. Now, on the print side of things, I do sell prints, but not really that much. And the reason that I haven't been selling prints, and I know some artists that their business model includes the selling of prints, and it's kind of classed as passive income because people will buy the print and you don't really have to do an awful lot. What kind of happens then is it depends on whether or not you want to be completely passive, or whether you actually want to be completely in control of everything, all of the print. So whether you do your printing in-house, which means you've got to kind of have that outlay of a really decent printer, I'd kind of recommend doing your own scanning and Photoshop work and everything. The physical printing you could do at home, or you can outsource. So you can find a printer who will actually do all of your printing for you. And then you need to then decide whether or not you want to have control of the postage and all of that type of stuff. Well, for me, that isn't passive income. Spending sort of 2 or 3 days having to package your prints up, that is quite a lot of revenue lost for me, because I can be doing all sorts of other things that are actually going to be making me money in sort of like over 2 or 3 days. So for me, the print side of things needs to be completely passive, which means that I am kind of going to start using a print on demand service. So all of my printing is done by a third party. That is then, and all of my ordering is taken on by a third party. Even though it looks like it's coming through my website, it's going to be done by a third party. And all of the posting and packaging is done by a third party. So all I'm doing is creating the piece, deciding whether it's going to be a limited edition or deciding whether it's going to be, an open edition of prints, adding them to my website, and then that's it. I don't need to do anything else then. And all I do is I then get a sum of money at the end of each month of all of the pieces that I've sold. But I don't have to take time out to package up and do all of that sort of, going to the post office and all of that type of thing. It's not something that I'm interested in. I know a lot of artists do, and they're very successful doing it, but that's something that you need to be kind of thinking about. Do you want real passive income, or do you feel you need to keep more control over that side of things? The issue with kind of doing everything yourself is that you limit yourself to taking on more work, I guess, because you've got to factor in all of that time for the fulfilling, for the shipping, for the, all of that type of thing. And if you've got a print that does particularly well and you sell 500 prints, you've then got to package 500 of those. And that is not something that I'm interested in doing at all. So I'd much prefer to get a third party to do that. And that's when you start to, when your business starts to become successful, you can then outsource quite a few of the different areas of your business. So I outsource all of my web development. I outsource all of my accounting. I'm not particularly good at it. And I can think of a much, much better way of spending sort of a day each month doing something that I am good at and that is going to bring me more money in. Money's not the be all and end all, but when you're a single mum and you have 3 children, it's important that I am making enough money to keep a roof over our heads. And that is my first and foremost thought, is keeping my children safe and making sure that they're provided for. I guess I am a businesswoman. I guess I am relatively entrepreneurial. I've got all of these different ideas and everything, and I'm a doer. I do stuff. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. I like to be busy, and if I can earn money, and then that's great. But money isn't the first and foremost thing for me. The enjoyment of my work, the helping people, the making sure my little family's sort of safe and secure, that is what's really, really important to me. So I think there are all sorts of things you can do within your business. The commission stuff, You may find that it takes a little bit of while to kind of get that up and running. You might need to spend sort of quite a lot of time and energy on building that commission side of the business up. You might want to decide that you want to concentrate on one of the other areas. So you might want to start teaching straight away. Again, I would say, you really, really need to build your audience up. You really need to make sure that your audience knows what it is that they're going to be getting. Because if you're going to be putting time and effort into creating tutorials, doing workshops, all of that type of thing, you want to make sure that all of the time and effort you're spending on something, you're getting something back from it. If you've started a Patreon channel and you've only got, say, I don't know, 15 patrons, you've still got to put all of the effort in every month, just for those 15 patrons. For me, it's worth holding off and creating a really great campaign and then just waiting until you've got everything in place so that when you actually launch, you end up launching and you get 100 patrons in the first day. And it's possible. It's absolutely possible. All you need to do is just make sure that you're kind of building that hype, I suppose, around things. You're making sure that people understand what it is that you're going to be giving them. Give them something that other people aren't giving. And it's a little bit difficult because obviously in the art business, a lot of the business models are very similar. But what you can give somebody that no other artist can give is your personality, is your style. So, and if you can make you a really attractive proposition, you're going to do really well. But you've got to put that work in. And I would highly, highly recommend running that sort of campaign before starting any sort of workshop or online teaching or anything like that, so that people are clamoring to book on with you because they know exactly what they're getting and they're really excited about it. So those are kind of the revenue streams that I have. The commission side of things, the teaching side of things, the print side of things is coming. The merchandise, possibly. I've got another few things in the pipeline that are quite exciting, I have to say. It's kind of a very personal thing as to what it is that you want to be doing and adding to your business model. But whatever you decide to do, take your time, really research what it is that you want to be doing. It's very, very easy just to kind of jump in and go, right, I'm just going to do this, and just jump in and do it. But some things, it's much better off if you can kind of plan and wait and build a strategy around it, and just make sure that you're sort of sowing those seeds, putting those steps in, so that when you launch whatever it is that you're launching, you launch with a bang rather than with a dribble, I suppose. And nobody wants to see somebody not doing well, but if you put the time and the effort and everything in, and you create something and build the hype, you're gonna find it's more successful, because people want to know what they're getting. I've kind of said that a few times, I think, but they really do. They want to know what they're getting. And if you just want to be a commissioned artist, there is nothing wrong with just being a commissioned. Well, I'm saying just a commissioned artist. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a commissioned artist. If that's all you want to do, then you can be incredibly successful just doing that. You are sort of you do limit the amount, I guess, you can earn, because there are only so many commissions you can do in a week, well, a month or whatever. But you can still make a good living from it. Just as a sole job. There are loads of commissioned artists out there who are doing amazingly well, booked up for years in advance, and don't have any other revenue streams, and that's okay. You can do whatever it is that you want to do, but it is quite good to have sort of future-proof your business and think about what you want to do, plan around what you want to do. And it could be that you do the commission side of stuff and you do prints, or you do a little bit of teaching, or something like that. But I think making sure that it's something that you personally want to do, not just jumping on the bandwagon and going, oh well, so and so's doing that, so I'll do the same. Do your research, make sure that it's something that you can actually keep doing and keep your promises. If you're promising something, just make sure that you can keep that. But yeah, I mean, it's worked well for me. My teaching side of things is kind of my main source of income now, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and I put my all into it. It's something that I just really like doing. I love doing all of my live streaming. I love chatting to people. Next year, obviously this year, the physical workshops have kind of fizzled out and I've had to cancel them all. Next year, I'm going to be bringing out some artist retreats, which is going to be really, really exciting. But again, I couldn't do those artist retreats right from the beginning. I had to start off with workshops because, who would come on an artist retreat for me and spend sort of double what a workshop would cost? Who would do that? You need to know what it is that you're getting before you can kind of commit to spending a little bit more money on sort of 3, 4, 5 day retreat rather than sort of like just a 2-day workshop. And I think, again, it's kind of been within my plan to do that type of thing, but you kind of have to wait, you kind of have to work through things, and just make sure that the initial things are working properly, and then you can start to build on, change things and sort of build on things and make things a little bit different. Yeah. I think the best thing to do for anybody is to plan, to make sure you know exactly what it is that you want to do, get your plan down, and then you can start building on the different areas. Make sure you focus just on one area at a time, because otherwise you're going to get a little bit bogged down trying to do multiple things. But just sort of focus on one thing, get that working like clockwork, make it your bread and butter work, and then you can move on to the next.